Right, it's recording now.
We got it on.
Yeah.
Okay, welcome to this episode of Talking Jits and Giggles. Today we've got a sponsored by Groundworx Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I might throw us out there today. I think I throw enough people out there all the time. And we have a guest on today, Richie Hardcore. Now, it's Hardcore. I'm just going to ask it. Because sorry, Richie, I don't know too much about you. This is Bryan's area. Is that your fighting name, or is it more of your? It is your last name.
Nah, it's my actual middle name. My last name's Stewart, but everyone just started calling me Richie Hardcore like in the mid 2000s, so I changed my name legally.
Oh, okay.
So like Hardcore is my middle name, you know. Like in 2006 when I was 26, I thought it was cool. Now I do a whole bunch of other stuff as well as Muay Thai. And it's kind of like I have to explain it a lot. I'm often talking to schools and stuff about like pornography. So I'm like, yo, it's hardcore.
Oh.
Like you know what I
mean? Interesting.
Yeah. Hardcore is also a style of music. Like I used to do a radio show here in Auckland called Viva La Hardcore. And hardcore came out of like the punk rock scene. And there was a whole like, it was a really big, vibrant underground community for a while, and it was really important to me.
Yeah.
So these two things, like Muay Thai, I was Richie Hardcore, the fighter, and I was doing like hardcore music stuff. And so at the time, it seemed like a good idea. Now it's just kind of a funny story. But yeah,
it's the name of my something to talk about.
It's the name on my passport and license and all that shit. So yeah.
Oh, good stuff. So look, welcome to the show. I mean, we're a fundamentally a grappling podcast, but we're not just that. We just want to talk about people through New Zealand in martial arts. And I think you do a wee bit of grappling now and have done a wee bit over your time. But from my understanding, you're more of a Thai fighter, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So just tell us your story. Where did you begin? Like, you know, from a little kid coming through, like in your martial art career and that kind of stuff, to where you are now.
Yeah, sure. So I started like freestyle sort of Taekwondo when I was 13 years old. My dad took me up to the local community hall, you know, like. And they train like Mondays and Wednesdays. And I had a pretty dysfunctional childhood. And my dad said to the guy, like, I'm not doing the best job as a dad. Could you help my son out? Which I really respect my father for doing, you know, because I was pretty, you know, low self-esteem and all that sort of stuff. And I really loved it, man. I was just like, yeah, I was just super in love with Taekwondo. Well, we didn't do like world Taekwondo style, you know, like you might know Cal Van Roon and those amazing Olympic athletes. We weren't like that. It was lots of point sparring, and we'd turn up to like tournaments with, you know, and like be like karate and kung fu and freestyle Taekwondo and compete in that manner, you know, as opposed to the official sort of world Taekwondo style. But it was dope, man. I started when I was 13 and just really fell in love with, I guess, the structure and discipline of it all. And I guess I was a pretty angry kid in some regards. And so it gave me like a really nice space to exercise that energy in a constructive, not destructive way, you know.
Like channel it somewhere.
Yeah, channeled it somewhere, you know. And started giving me self-esteem, really, like as my body changed, because we're doing like stupid amounts of push-ups as you do in old school martial arts. Like so did my inner world, and that's a journey that continues. But yeah, I started liking myself, I suppose, and as I started liking myself, other people started liking me, and there's this whole positive journey of that. And at 17 there's a guy in school who's doing Muay Thai, Balmoral, Lee Gar, and he was like, "Yo, your Taekwondo stuff's all shit, G. Come to Muay Thai." And I was like, I thought I was the man because I think I was about to get my black belt or whatever, and I went to Muay Thai, and I was like, "Oh, yo, these guys will crush me," you know. So I started doing like Thai boxing Tuesday, Thursday, Taekwondo Monday, Wednesday. And then just really moved into the Thai boxing. And I had my first Thai boxing fight when I was 18, still in school. And I was training at Balmoral, but I didn't really think about it back then. And I wasn't getting like a fight from Balmoral. And I was also friends with Aaron Boyes from Strikeforce Gym, and one of his students, Willie Lamb, and I went to school together. And, you know, I knew them from like the point sparring tournament world, right? And they were like, oh, do you want to do this Thai fight? We need someone your weight. And I was like, didn't think about the fact that it was disrespectful to Lolo and that. So I was like, yeah, cool. And like drove down to Hamilton. Terry Hill was putting on a show down there. And yeah, I had my first Thai boxing fight in 1998. I wouldn't have another Thai boxing fight for 2 more years, but I kept training really hard. And then I started with a guy called John Conway. John was one of Balmoral's top students, like an old world champ and New Zealand champ, South Pacific champ, and that. Had over 100 fights with like boxing and Thai boxing combined, good amateur boxing background. And he lived a bit closer to me than Balmoral Gym. So he really took me under his wing, and became like, I guess like a mentor and a big brother in a lot of ways. And he's old school. He's still old school. Like we had to get up at 5:30 every morning, fucking running at 6, 4 or 5 days a week. So it was tough, man. I think I've basically spent my entire 20s like sleep deprived and malnourished. But yeah, it made me successful in that era. You know, I won a whole range of New Zealand titles, and I won a 4-man title that Jason started. Before the King of the Ring, Jason used to do these 4-man titles. And so won that, and I won a South Pacific title. And yeah, had a good, humble career. Got to go to Thailand and compete over there a few times and train over there. And I students there now to the same gym that I've always been going to since the mid-2000s. And yeah, just been really fortunate to moved out of my own fighting. I retired in 2013 to coach other guys, mainly from Lee Gar Gym, where I've, you know, that's the family of gyms that I belong to, and got to work with some top guys like Slava Alexic and Brad Riddell and Joe Hopkins, and help them, you know, through pad holding and coaching, achieve their goals alongside the rest of their coaching team. So it's been fun to, I guess, come through that whole process of intergenerational learning, you know, like start as a boy, and now I come back and I help young men, and now I have my own little gym and I'm helping boys. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It's cool when like a young kid will come in the gym with a whole bunch of problems going on that I can relate to.
You can see yourself with them when you
man, 100%. And I'm like, yo, you know what's better than like gangs and drugs and all that shit is this, you know? And there's some ideas you might want to incorporate into your life.
Oh, that's awesome, man. So, I mean, obviously, Thai's been your biggest passion in that side of things, because you've those people that you've had around you that have influenced you to, you know, to go down those lines. You said you competed a fair bit in New Zealand. Did you ever have like that one fight that you just thought, shit, this one was amazing, whether it was a win or a loss?
Yeah, when I won my South Pacific title, it was a really close fight. That was 2009. That was the last time I competed at 72 kilos. I moved up to 76 after that. But my stepfather died a few hours before I was meant to compete. And so, yeah, I was pretty upset. Like, my bro came around to pick me up, and I was like literally in tears. And but yeah, I went and I fought, and it was a close fight, and like could have gone either way, but you know, the judges saw it my way, and I was really happy to have won that South Pacific title in spite of everything, I suppose you mean. Like, my mother still came, you know, and her husband had just died that same day, and like I don't know, that stands out as I guess like a transferable life lesson. I think martial arts, whether it's jiu-jitsu or wrestling or boxing, what has all these transferable life lessons, you know what I mean? Yeah. And I think from that, you know, I kind of come to understand that, like, it doesn't necessarily matter what happens to you, it's how you respond to it that makes a difference. Yeah. And that doesn't mean I always make the fucking greatest decisions when bad shit happens to me. Yeah. But I did that day. And yeah, that stands out as a good memory. 2011, I got to fight at Richard Umnam Stadium, which is one of the big famous stadiums over in Bangkok. Cool. That was massive for me. I was having a real rough patch in my life. I'd just broken up with my wife, now my ex-wife. And my mental health wasn't the best, but went to Thailand for 3 months and just did what's always worked for me, which is bury my feelings in hard training. And yeah, that was sick, man. And that was sick. And actually, my father was in Thailand at the time, and me and my father haven't always had a close relationship because of his. My father's alcoholic and all this shit. Like for him to be there and be in a good space in his life and come and support me when I was going through a really difficult space in mine, and then win at a big famous stadium and it'd be a really sick fight. They stand out as good memories, you know, like I guess of like dealing with adversity through a positive fashion rather than feeling sorry for myself and giving up, you know.
So who did you? Oh, I was just saying. What? So when you were at in Thailand, what camp were you fighting at?
I've only had 4 fights in Thailand, so not heaps or anything. I'm not trying to like say I'm weighing power or anything, but I always go to Sasi Papa Gym, which is in Bangkok. It's not in like a fancy part of Bangkok. It's not around there. I mean, you can jump on the subway and that, and then you're in metropolitan Bangkok. But yeah, it's cool, man. They've had heaps of famous fighters through there, Western fighters like Michael Bisping and a guy called Sean Wright and Pitu Sands, and they run the MX tournament. I don't know if you know that, but it's Muay Thai and MMA gloves. So
I've seen Riddell had a couple of those.
Yeah, he's done that in Australia. So actually, Wayne, I believe Wayne Parr started Muay Thai and MMA gloves with Cage Muay Thai. That's his tournament. And Brad went and fought Wayne in their rematch in MMA gloves. Like I cornered Brad on short notice when he fought Wayne the first time, on like a few days' notice, and Brad was training at Tiger Muay Thai, and he was going to go over and fight Wayne with like just a random dude in the corner. And so and so my friend Joe Hopkins and I bought our own plane tickets to go corner him, and it was a close fight. Like Wayne was the man then, and Brad took it on like without like a full specific camp. And then he eventually moved to the kickboxing, fought Wayne in Cage Muay Thai, and like really beat him soundly. Like
I've watched them both. Crazy fights.
Yeah, like 4 or 5 8 counts. Like fighting Brad Riddell in MMA gloves is a terrible idea. You know,
especially when it's stand up only.
It's just stand up only. Like it's nuts. Anyway, I lost your original point of the question there. But
it's just about who you trained with.
Sasi Papa Gym. Yeah, Sasi Papa Gym, and they have this MX tournament now, and it's like Muay Thai Extreme MX, and they're good, man. They've always looked after me. Like they've never given me like bums, but they've never like oversold me in either. You know what I mean? Like I fought guys who like I didn't. When you go to Thailand, often it's like you turn up and they're like you're fighting that guy, and you don't have to weigh in when it's not at a big tournament. You know, so, you know, there are guys that I might have had like 5 or 6 kilos weight advantage on, but they've had like 100 more fights than me, literally. Yeah. And so they balance it out that way. It's just kind of how it is over there. But yeah.
But what you were saying before about carrying on competing no matter what's going on, I've always seen martial arts as a common ground. So no matter what's going on in my life, Hayden's life, or other people in the gym, you'll come to training and everyone's suddenly on the same level. So it's a place to go where you can kind of ground yourself. No matter what's going on, you just take a step out of that troubles and I'll just do this path for a little bit, and then I go back with a fresh mind.
Massively. I talk about this all the time. Like, imagine if everyone who solved all their problems with getting on the piss every weekend and doing heaps of cocaine decided to start a regular martial arts practice. Do you know what I mean? Like, it would be so much. I mean, not saying that martial artists don't do that either, because we all know that they do. Yeah. Hello, John Jones, you know. But I am saying that it is a positive way to deal with life, and it is a way to not just, you know, I guess when I say run away from my feelings, it's a way of processing your feelings, because there is like a catharsis to training, and you have to be real. You know, your best training session or your best fight. You're super mindful and present and grounded, and you're here and now. You're not like yesterday or the day before or next week. You know, like it's really good for dealing with those struggles. I did a body of work for the United Nations a couple of years ago, body of research looking at how does involvement in martial arts help young people, and we found. I'm trying to see if I got a document here. But anywhere around the world, we found like refugee camps in Syria doing judo. We found, on the border with Syria doing judo, like places in the Bronx, here in New Zealand, Australia, like Thailand, anywhere around the world that young people were in a structured martial arts program, they had better outcomes in life than had they not been.
Yep.
And yeah, it's true. It's a great equalizer. There's so many transferable lessons from it. I mean, not everyone who starts obviously is going to apply the discipline, structure, and things that make successful martial artists to everything else in their life, but it's better than not doing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I mean, I teach kids, and we've got our kids classes, and you see the growth of children from when they start. You know, parents say, oh, they haven't been with shits at school and all that kind of stuff, and then 2 years later, they're like, I don't know, especially like dean of the school kind of thing. You know, the kids are really being really good. Yeah. Behavior changes. They have a different mindset and outlook on how they do that. Yes, you're right. You're not going to get every single child that's going to do that. But you get a majority of them that come through and just look at life in a different way, I suppose you could say. And yeah, I think that's really cool when it comes to, you know, things like that when it comes to martial arts.
Yeah, totally. I've got my stepson up at Tukaha Jiu-Jitsu. You know, he's up there once or twice a week, like precisely for that, because he's pretty wild. Like he's not wild as in naughty, but he's just like a really smart, energetic kid. And I want martial arts to be a positive factor in his development. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think everyone that goes into the gym, it's like joining a team or a sports team. You're accepted because you're in the team, but you're not really always going to be part of the team. But in martial arts, everyone is just instantly got that connection.
Hard out, bro. Like gyms are full of like lawyers, policemen, gangsters, like, you know, like everyone's, like you say, equal in that space, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's quite a rare thing.
So when you're not doing martial arts, what do you do to just keep yourself, I don't know, sane, busy? What do you like to do to relax? What do you?
What's relaxing? I like to train, man. Like, yeah, I like to lift weights and go running. And yeah, I find, I don't know, I'm working on that, to be honest with you, bro. I'm going through like this period in my life because I'm in a cast right now, and I can't do Muay Thai, I can't kickbox, I can't go boxing, can't go running. These are things that have always, I guess, balanced me out, right? And I've had all this other life stress going on, and I've had really bad anxiety. Like, so I've been seeing a therapist and a psychologist and all this shit to try and find other ways to deal with my stuff. So when you say, what do I do to relax? I guess I do a lot of, I don't really. I do a lot of like self-help stuff. I'm kind of
find ways to relax. That's how
I'm trying to find ways to relax that aren't keeping busy. Because that's the other thing, like, I'm kind of like
active relaxer.
Yeah, I'm an active relaxer. And then I'm learning, is that really relaxing? Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't really go out and have fun, you know? Like, I just stay, like, on all the time. And then I'm like, oh, why am I so fucking stressed out? So I guess I'm on this journey of, like, trying to figure out the answer to your question. You know, I mean, I watch Netflix with my girl and catch up with the boys for, like, lunch or, you know, see my female friend. Like, I see my friends. I don't know why I'm breaking them into sixes. I see my friends like normal people, you know, like have coffee and shit. But I'm not really good at downtime. I like to stay engaged all the time. You know what I mean? But I'm learning that that's not the best. Like, because humans aren't designed for that. You know, that's why we have like such a massive problem with like mental health and in around the modern world. You know, like. We're not designed to be like on our cell phones 24/7, go 24/7, fight or flight 24/7. Like that shit's bad for you. Yeah. So I'm trying to figure out. Yeah, talk to me in a couple of months. I might.
We'll come back to one in a couple of months and see how it's going.
Yeah.
So you say you're in a car. So like, how did?
It's not a cool story, bro. Nah, I wish it was. I've had a heap of training injuries.
Make something up.
But this is some like, actually, dude, these 3 dudes. No, just like some suburban dad shit, man. I bought like a brand new knife block on lockdown, and it arrived, and I was like, "Ooh, I'm gonna use the brand new knife," and I dropped that fucking thing, and it like sliced right through my extensor tendon in my foot.
Oh,
yeah, dude.
That's a cool story. I'll stick with that one.
And so, shout out Global Knives. Your knives are very sharp. Not endorsed to say that. But Yeah. So I went to the surgery. I went to the A&E, and the doctor there was like, I think he was new or something. He was like, "Oh, we just put some stitches in." I went back 2 days later, and they were like, "Yeah, your toe definitely doesn't work. You need surgery like today. Otherwise that tendon is never gonna heal." So
Shit.
I know. It was a bummer because I spent all of lockdown like going crazy doing this whole bodyweight training running regime.
And you cut yourself with a knife.
And then I know.
On my
I
block.
got like in super good shape. I got in like super good shape, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna like toes up all my shoe and back expiring and yada yada. And then like a week into non-lockdown, dad like drop a knife in the kitchen like an idiot.
Right.
Yeah, it's been frustrating, but like I say, like you find a positive way to deal with it. Like I have had really bad anxiety, and it's been a real struggle lately. But I'm going to the gym and doing upper body stuff, and just trying to figure out how to do other things. Like
injuries put things into perspective. I when I was younger, I went overseas to play rugby league, and I injured myself in my pre-season. So that pretty much put me on a down step. So I was in the I ruptured my knee, cartilage, everything like that. So I pretty much couldn't play league for that season anymore. In retrospect, I come back to New Zealand, but you just don't know what to do because you're so, at that stage, I'm saying rugby league, that's all I did, trained 6-7 days a week, played in the weekends, that's all I did. And then all of a sudden it's like, stop. And then my whole life, all I ever wanted to do was play rugby league. And now it pretty much stopped me from doing that. And it just puts you back into a mind of like, and it did, you go into a wee bit of a down spiral to start with until you can refocus and find out where you actually want to head from there.
Yeah, bro. I think so often what we do becomes like wrapped up in our identity of who we are. And then when we can't do that anymore, you're left with this big existential crisis. Like, who am I if I'm not playing rugby league, if I'm not a fighter, and all this sort of stuff. Like when I retired from fighting, it left a big gap in my life, which I basically filled with coaching and maintaining, continuing to train silly amounts. But it does, like you see that happen a lot. People finish their professional, like elite level guys, finish their professional careers, and then you see them on the news some months later with like, they're drunk driving, or they're arrested with cocaine, or they've had a marital breakdown. Or they come back. Fuck the Tyson thing. I know. That's horrible. Like that makes me sad. Yeah, like I don't want to see a 53-year-old and a 51-year-old like fight each other. Like
dangerous, man.
It's dangerous, man. Like, sure, and I think that's because I'm doing other things. Probably I didn't really keep up with them, but
yeah,
I think that's the problem with. We don't support athletes to transition from one thing to another. There's starting to be like cool initiatives, like I do a fair bit of public speaking for my work these days. And, I was down with the league camp down in Christchurch recently. And they're really talking to the boys down there about what you're talking about, bro. Like, hey, look, a lot of you might get an injury or you might not make the NRL. You need to understand that you need to have options outside of sport if it doesn't happen for you. Like they are starting to shift those things. They're like talent agencies that help their, like the bro Dan Hooker or Kai Kata France or our UFC boys.
Yeah.
They are diversifying as well as the fighting, like they're using social media for their financial advantage. Or Dan started the Combat Academy. He's used his, he's in the spotlight now and he'll be in the spotlight for the next few years, but like he won't always, and it's like when you have that I guess plan
it's a backup
in place. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think it's sensible. I don't think it's defeatist to have another plan along, not like a second case scenario or worst case scenario, but like a adjacent scenario.
Yeah, you've got to be working on two things at once, to be quite honest, in my opinion, because like especially for fighters, and yourself, how many times you've been hit and you get concussed or something like that, and then all of a sudden it doesn't go away. No, you know what I mean? It's just constantly in the dose. You've got to give up. If you're not rugby players, I suppose you say the same thing as well. They're getting paid to play rugby, but you need to study and learn because that's not going to last forever.
Yeah.
You said you retired in 2013.
13, yeah.
I mean, how old were you then?
I was 33.
Yeah, so 33, you know, so the next step for you, you know, most people can't go on in a long distance, so it is a definite.
Like, and for me, like, I could never have made money. Like, you know, you can pay $1,500, $2,000 to fight people, you know, and it's like, that's not a lot of money to like put your life on the line, literally.
Yeah.
And it's better now. Like, you know, the young guys now can look at tournaments like 1FC and stuff if they're, you know, but it's, you know, it's a small window of people who can make it.
Not everyone makes it.
Not everyone makes it. And it's, yeah. So, I guess for me, like, I put myself through university when I was fighting. Like, I paid my way, like, through PT. So I'd PT in the day, go to my lectures, go to the gym, train, fight in the holiday, shit like that, you know? So, in hindsight, while I wish sometimes I'm like, oh, I wish I put all my eggs in the Muay Thai basket, you know? But then sometimes I'll go give a talk and like positively impact a couple thousand people or whatever. And I'm like, oh, I'm actually glad I went and used my brain as well as my body. You know, does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh, because I mean,
stories, like you're saying, all the stories you look online, you Google success stories and you see Billy Slater did one plan, made the NRL, best life ever, but you don't hear about what happens when things go wrong or when things don't go right. So you want to hear, and it's not, like you said, it's not defeatist to have a plan B. It's sensible and it's working towards your main goal, but you've got sub goals along the way. And you need, I think we need to hear more about the mistakes people make and how they fix them like that. Like even in my work, like we have a group chat and we sit there where they talk about their wins and successes. And I've just started. I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm like, I can't do this. What happens when it goes wrong? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, I think yes. I think whether you're, you know, I don't know what your business is. What's your
I work at Charlie's, but it's just.
Oh, okay, cool. I like your sponsorship there. Good job. I hope they're paying you, dog. Yeah. Brand placement, very good.
On my lunch break.
Yeah. Well, you know, like, yeah, it is having those backup things. If you're a young person watching this and you want to be a professional MMA fighter or Thai boxer or whatever, like, do everything you can to achieve that, but also at the same time, and I'm trying to just change the language from backup plan to
I know what you're saying though.
More focused goals.
Parallel plan. Or sub-focused goals. That's a nice way. You know what I mean? Like,
I think talking to people who've already made the journey is the best way to do it, as opposed to people who are currently in the spotlight, because they only know what's going on and what they did before that. It's post careers which they need to do.
I think it's a really good point, bro. Like, and that's why I get annoyed these days. You see, like, the word old used as a pejorative term, like, oh, that old blah blah blah, and it's like, actually, old people are dope because they've been there and done that, and they have wisdom. They have wisdom. I don't want to learn from someone who's never done what I want to learn about. Do you know what I mean?
Googled this for a week and I know how to do it.
Yeah. But that's the thing with social media culture. Where no matter what you're talking about, there'll be some young person who thinks they know it all because they've read the latest. And it's actually like, yo, man, like, you gotta listen to your elders, you know, like, and maybe that's because I'm getting older, but I genuinely think, like, we discount people who are older as irrelevant or outdated when in fact they have so much to share. You know, like, it's amazing going to like a jiu-jitsu, going for older guys at jiu-jitsu, you know, like guys that I've done a little bit of jiu-jitsu, and guys who I know I'm physically fitter or stronger than, it's like tapping me out every 5 minutes because they have experience, you know, and they have technique and they have knowledge that I don't have. And it's like, how do you transfer that understanding to like all facets of life? You know what I mean? Can't Google that. Yeah, exactly. It's not on Instagram, you know, like.
I'm looking.
So, yeah. I think there's a lot to be said for. We need to value our elderly people more in society.
Yeah. So what do you do for work? I mean, is Thai boxing your gym, your job, or what do you actually do when you say you talk to people?
No, so I do two things. So I run a gym and I'm a personal trainer. So I train people for fitness and that at my little Thai boxing gym. And I run classes every day and on the weekends, and we train some fighters. But mainly people just want to learn for fitness. But the other half of what I do is, I'm a public speaker. So I travel around Australia and New Zealand and do a lot of public speaking around mental health, or my main kaupapa is family violence prevention, sexual violence prevention. And what underpins all of those things is what we call like constructions of masculinity. Basically, how do we learn to be men from boyhood? And I talk through a range of interpersonal reasons that we get our ideas, like what our dads teach us, what our granddads teach us, blah, blah, blah. And then like sociological, what music are we listening to? What's in the advertising? Like, when did you first see pornography and what does that teach you? And I break those sorts of things down for, schools, universities, businesses. I've been doing that for the last few years now. I used to work in reducing alcohol and drug harm for the community. I used to do this. I did that for about 6 or 7 years, working out of the council, funded by the Ministry of Health. And that sort of underpins a lot of this stuff, like there are social reasons why people do shit things. We often blame individuals, but actually most individuals, and there are aberrant individuals who are just like born bad, but it's like 1 in 10,000 or one, I don't even know. But like most people are a product of the environment. And so if we want people to change, we need to change the environment they live in. Yeah. And that environment's not necessarily, it's a physiological environment. Like if your environment is liquor stores and like junk food and all that sort of shit that we put in like socioeconomically deprived neighborhoods more often than affluent neighborhoods, of course you're going to get more alcohol-related fucking crime. You know what I mean? Like, like the cheapest liquor in all of New Zealand's in South Auckland by design. You know what I mean? And that sucks. That's predatory. There should be laws and legislation in place to minimize that sort of thing. So yeah, I go and talk about that sort of stuff. Often I talk to boys. I'll go to a boys' school and be like, "Yo, what's up, motherfuckers?" And like, depending on whether it's a Catholic school or not, and I leverage off the fact that I used to be stereotypically tough, like there's photos of me fighting and shit like that. And I'm like, "Yo, what's up? This is what I do." And yada, yada, yada. And I'm a coach. But now I've moved into this sort of field, because then it gets them interested because it's a stereotypical bro shit. They can relate to that maybe. But then I'm like, "Yo, man, like, what is the leading killer of one of the leading killers of young men?" And they'll all tell me suicide. And so if we don't want women to be victim of interpersonal violence, and if we don't want young men to kill themselves or kill other young men, if we think about random street violence, if we don't want young men to die in car accidents and end up in jail, like we need to help them understand that being a man is not about being tough and like scoring heaps of girls and flexing with your gold chains like the hip hop music videos teach us. It's about, well, I laugh about it, but I wear a gold chain. Like, I just don't have it on now, like, but like, you can be those things, but not at the expense of being respectful to a woman in your relationship and like, knowing that it's not okay to wolf whistle at someone or pinch their ass at a club, or it's important to be able to talk about your feelings. Like, it doesn't make you like less of a man.
It's more of a man.
It's actually really hard to say, I'm really fucking down today and I'm confused and I don't know what I'm doing and I feel like shit. Can you help me? Yeah. But we often expect men to have all the answers all the time, and that's just not realistic. Boys are we're allowed to express ourselves as being real happy, like the party guy, or angry, like the dude who like, oh, what, I'm just moving to the fight. And like I grew up with all that shit. I grew up in West Auckland. I don't know where you guys are based. Where are you based? Auckland? Christchurch. Oh, okay. Well, West Auckland, I suppose, is like Christchurch. Like a lot of like fighting and like dudes getting pissed at parties and fighting for more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I grew up with all that shit, and it makes me fucking sad to think about how some of my friends like committed suicide or in jail or they're fucking themselves with drugs.
Yeah, it's definitely one thing. I mean, that's pretty awesome that you've got the opportunity to do that, and like you say, you use what you've got and use what you've learned over your time to give back.
And I try, and I also make sure that it's not just my life story or evidence. It's evidence based. So everything I do is underpinned by research. Mm-hmm. Because I do work for like official organizations now, and I make sure that I'm up to date with what. It's not just my reckon, like a lot of people are like, yo, this is my opinion. Like, that's fact, but it's not, like, I try and engage them with the personal story and then show them some alternatives through, like, I guess, a research-based approach. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You know, like a lot of people like, you know, like believe 5G causes corona and stuff. And it's like, yo, like,
flat Earth causes corona.
Yeah, flat Earth. It's like,
I thought it was the beer.
Yeah. You know what I mean? So I try and make sure that I'm actually not just spouting bullshit. Everything is evidentially based. You know, there's a lot of academic research behind it. I'm actually doing my master's degree in sociology at the moment as well. Further to that,
active relaxer.
There's an active relaxer.
Yeah. I know. Yeah, I know. My girlfriend, she's like, "Yo, dude," she doesn't say "yo, dude." She doesn't say that, but she's like, it's so heavy going out with you because, you know, everyone's like, "So what do you do?" And then you start talking about like stopping rape and like stopping violence, and I need to learn to like do some more chilled out shit, I guess. But it's important, you know. It's important, like. It is, man. Like, you need men. You need regular men, like, to talk about this sort of stuff in a way that other men get. Because often you hear, like, toxic masculinity or, like, all this sort of stuff. Like, most dudes don't give a fuck about that. They're like, whatever.
It's too easy to swipe away from that on your Instagram.
Too easy to swipe. Yeah, exactly, man. You actually need to learn how to engage with bros in a way that they understand, you know what I mean? So, if you're at the gym and some dude says something really disrespectful about women, instead of, like, make fun of him and just call him on it. Oh, hey bro, like, don't you have a daughter? You know, like, why are you saying that? You know, like, help them have an empathy exercise. Like, we need to learn to treat women and girls not in relation to men. Like, you should treat all women and girls respectfully, not just the ones that you know, right?
Yeah.
But it's about helping dudes understand that the jokes that we make and the movies that we watch and the ideas that we share create an environment from which so much violence against women and girls comes from, man. Like, it's not just like monsters jumping out of the closet. It's like regular dudes who don't take no for an answer that are committing crime, man.
So when you for your goals for and you're saying about the gym and that kind of stuff. So like, are you wanting to continue just being that kind of coach? Have you got an aspiration to like get bigger? I mean, I don't even know how many students you have. Like,
yeah.
You know, and then
I'll probably have. I have a small space. So my good friend has a functional fitness gym, and we use the ground floor. So it's only about 60 to 70 square meters, you know, and 20 people is a pretty packed class, like physical, distance wise. Yeah. But I would like to expand my gym. It's just unfortunately Auckland, man, like property prices around where I'd like to have a gym are really expensive, you know. Yeah. So it's trying to figure that out.
You could make a comeback and fight someone when you're 50 and make he's a money.
yeah. If I was Mike Tyson and getting paid what Mike Tyson got paid, then for real. Yeah. But I'm forgetful enough, so $1,200 isn't really going to do it, you know.
It's a week's rent.
Yeah, exactly, bro. So I'm actually interested in looking at how I can. I have no firm plan on this, but when I think about the work I do that I've been explaining to you about, and I think about the gym space, like it'd be amazing to have a big facility where you could have lectures over here, gym over here, psychologists over here. Do you know what I mean? Like
a UFC of learning, like a mixed.
Yeah, like a UFC of
center.
learning. Yeah, it's kind of like I always explain it as like a Trojan horse. You know, like they come for the training, but they get all this other shit. You know, like.
The support.
I don't know about like what if you guys are black belts or whatever, but I've been coaching people for quite a long time now, and you become more than a coach, you become a mentor, right?
Yeah.
And
the kids look up.
The kids look up to you.
Yeah.
And so like if I'm all like, fuck bitches, get money, sluts, like let's smoke some meth, like that reflects in the culture of my gym, right? But like if your gym is one of like traditional martial values of self-respect and discipline, and then you incorporate like honor and mutual respect, and then some of this other stuff I'm talking about, like emotional vulnerability, that's a great thing, man. Like that's how the world changes, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't have to, you're not going to get a lot of the guys that come to do Muay Thai or MMA into a lecture on like healthy masculinity. Like, let's face it, you know what I mean? Yeah. But if you can fucking
if that viewer is on, they might
yeah, exactly, man. last year, the government funded me to run this day-long workshop. We had the Eugene Behrman presenting, you know, like from City Kickboxing, world's #1 MMA coach. We had Brad Riddell. We had a guy called David Neathby, who's like Israel Adesanya's mental performance coach. But then I gave a talk on healthy masculinity and like violence prevention. And we had a dude talk about mental health and addiction. And people loved it. You know what I mean? We had like people from all around the country turn up. And that was just a one-off event. But I'm always curious to know how I can bring all of these things that I know work together in one physical space. That would be something I'm exploring, trying to do. But yeah, in short, yeah, I want to keep the gym ticking over. I got a couple of really talented young guys that I think have real potential to do good on the local stage. And we're like, how do we get to like king in the ring, and then how do we go from there to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I just take it one step at a time. I don't. Yeah. I'm like, let's, you know, like this is like a 2-year plan, 3-year plan, 5-year plan. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
if someone's like, I don't like to rush young people and put pressure on young people because I tell them school's the most important thing, you know. But yeah, some of them have got some potential, so I'm just trying my best to help them get to where they want to be without.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
So when you heard you earlier. So like when it comes to jiu-jitsu training, have you done much, and do you do it at all, or what? How do you?
Man, I met Pedro Fernandez from Tucaja like in 2006, because he had the ground floor. He had the middle floor of this building we're in, and I had the top floor. And he was like, "Yeah, jiu-jitsu," and I was like, "Yo, this is dope." But I was like full on competing in boxing, and MMA wasn't what it is now. And Dan Hooker was doing a bit of jits with him back then. And this dude John, and he'd come up and spar my students and beat them all up and like leave. And like so I always had a real respect for jiu-jitsu, and I never really pursued it. I did have an MMA fight in Japan in like 2010, and it was like on 5 weeks notice. So I did like a 5-week crash course on like how to pull guard, and like how to stuff a takedown. None of which helped me, because it was a gnarly set of rules where you could like fight with headbutts, and the dude would take me down.
Like lift way.
Yeah, like it was like
Pride.
Way.
Like
no, it
Pride
wasn't
rules.
Pride. It's like Pride rules. You could stomp and soft kick and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the dude wouldn't even really shoot that much. He would like take me down like a judo throw or whatever, and then he'd come down on top of me and headbutt the fuck out of me. Anyway, that was my introduction to jiu-jitsu. Like I could pull guard, grab a dude's wrists, and understand that he can still headbutt you. Anyway, I've mucked around with it here and there, but I've never applied myself to it. Every year I keep telling myself that I'm going to, but to be fair, I do struggle with running my own classes and then being it, you know. But Pedro's fan, like I love whenever I've gone up to Tucaja, it's been really, really cool. And like everyone I know through the jiu-jitsu community here in Auckland has been awesome. Like there's Paulo Talicio and Douglas Santos, and they're all like wonderful people, and I enjoy their friendship, you know.
Yeah, we had Pedro on earlier on in our podcast.
He's such a great he's such a great human. And like everyone in that gym has got like, cause I used to share the space that he trains out of. We used to train out of the same gym, like back in the day. And then the last couple of years, I've moved now to a smaller space. But yeah, so I'd see Pedro like every day basically, and his students, and they're just amazing. There's a real nice ethos to Kaha, which I think is really reflective of Pedro himself. You know, like he's a martial artist in every sense of the word. You know what I mean? Like some people get the black belt, but they don't get the emotional black belt.
Not a black belt human. Black belt.
You're not a black belt human. Yeah, fuck, that's nice. Maybe we should make that a t-shirt. Yeah, black belt human. Like
black belt in humanity.
Yeah, and he is. And like as far as I know him, you know, like I'm, you know, and so I really love that dude, man.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I keep meaning to go up there because as I get older, you know,
it's
like, I can't keep up. Yeah. Well, but like, you know, Thai boxing is real grindy, like smashing pads and running and all this sort of shit. Like, I'd like to have something else that I can stay competitive in. I know it gets harder, but like, I feel like while there's the risk of a joint injury, some ways it might be a bit gentler on my fucking body.
Oh, I get a lot of people, you know, in their 40s and more into their 50s coming along going, look, I want to do this because my body can't take doing Thai anymore. Or boxing, or you know, those kind of things.
Well, in
So
striking,
but they don't want to give up.
You feel like you're winning, you feel like you're losing in striking.
Oh, dude, I just think about my head, you know, like I've literally been punched in the head like millions of times. And, like, I still like sparring and stuff, but
not being punched.
A lot of young guys want to test you all the time, and you're like, fuck, where are my car keys? You know, like, just so I can be like, stop choking me out now, you know. Yeah. So yeah, I really love jiu-jitsu and respect jiu-jitsu, and I'm happy to have done a little of it, but I would never say I'm remotely proficient in it. And it helps me enjoy mixed martial arts more as a fan, you know.
You know what's going on, yeah.
Yeah, I know what's going on, and I'm like, oh, yo, okay, I can see how that works, and I know what a triangle is and shit, you know. Yeah.
Hey, look, Richie, I mean, look, really appreciate your time. Thank you very much for your insight on life in general, and your Thai and your martial arts and your business life. Look, we've really appreciated having you on. Normally, we finish this off with a quick fire questions. It's Brian's turn.
Okay.
So he's going to hit you. He's going to hit you with 5 questions, mate.
Okay. Cool.
So away you go, Bryan.
So, what's the most amazing place you've ever travelled and trained at, and why?
Travelled and trained at, and why? Oh man, I guess I'll have to say for me, like Sassy Papa, because in Bangkok. I guess there's a lot of like nostalgia there for me, and it's like I went there before it was super popular, and I still go there now, and it's nice to know the community, like the people who sell you pineapple on the street, you know, like I guess there's like an emotional tie to that place for me. Yeah.
Cool. All right. For some weird reason, your CD player is broken and it's stuck on one band for training only. What's the one band you would listen to if it's stuck on that?
There's a hardcore band called Madball from New York City. I'll say them because they got a groove, but they're also real positive.
I'll have to check that one now.
Okay. Yeah.
So you've done very limited jiu-jitsu. What's your favorite part of it? Like even just watching it, like the sweeps or just the whole game plan behind it.
I like the fact that you actually, it's like superhuman chess. You know, like, do you know what I mean? Like, you're all, there's this constant like mental engagement and trying to figure out like, how do I figure this puzzle out? It's like the human Rubik's cube, you know?
And it's always moving too.
Yeah, it's always moving. So I appreciate that of it. Yeah.
Nice. With because you train quite a lot, do you take supplements to help your recovery, and what do you do?
Yeah, I've been a vegetarian for like 21 years. So I've always supplemented with protein. I take creatine because that's not in your diet as a vegetarian, and I find creatine really good, like for maintaining and improving your musculature. Sometimes I'll take, my main pre-workout is like just coffee, black coffee. I take a full range of different vitamins, you know, like not because of my diet, but just because of my lifestyle is really physical. So I take like B12 and zinc and multivitamins all the time because I hate getting sick, and I find that as a coach,
you've got time to be sick, man.
Sneezing on your shit. Yeah, I haven't got time on it. So so the main ones are like creatine, protein, and like full range vitamins.
Nice.
All right, and you haven't done much jiu-jitsu.
Your last question or what?
No, I've got one more because we do one at the end, and we have to do like a tally who's winning. So do you have your own gi?
I do, yeah.
Do you wash your belt when you train? After you train?
No.
Oh, I thought coming from Thai, you'd definitely wash everything.
Oh, no. I mean, maybe that's because I only train like once every 3 months though, bro. So like...
That's all right, mate. That's okay.
Yeah. I'm still lost. I'm the only one that washes.
Still lost.
I don't wash my belt. I wash the gi. I haven't washed the belt though,
No, that's all right. That's all.
All right.
Thanks, man.
Well, it's been really fun, man. Thanks for having me on the
man.
show.
Thank you very much for coming on board, bud.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah, that's wicked.
All right. Take good care.
You too.
Okay. Cheers, buddy.
Bye.
Thank you.
Yeah, we are, man.